Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the buffed Grozovoi. This ship has got a little over 10% better DPM now. This ship has always been a very strong DD, but one thing it lacked was some close range DPM. The shell arcs are incredible on Grozovoi. It is so easy to lead these guns, but now we have improved DPM, allowing us to, even against a small one, do absolutely ridiculous damage. Some of those salvos there, 3,500 damage out of our HE. This ship also having great armor piercing, as we'll showcase in a little bit, but just a flat 10-11% DPM buff. They decided to go from 4.2 seconds base reload down to 3.7. Now this ship also has a legendary upgrade, buffing its DPM even further at the cost of some torp reload, which I was running for some of these games. I think if you're going for gunboats or even hybrid build, you still want this extra gun power. That's where the majority of Grozovoi's power is coming from. And a small end here, even with very little support from our team, we are able to do an absolutely ridiculous amount of damage to him. He was very focused on taking out our friendly destroyer, though. I think there was a Groningen. So not exactly fair 1v1. He was very distracted, but still a great showcase of what the DPM on Grozovoi can be like. We got to worry about a Minotaur here, a Hoffman here. The reason I was playing so passive was I was worried about this Hoffman and Smolensk division. That is terrifying to deal with. Fortunately, we managed to get take one down early. So our DPM now looks pretty good as far as tier 10 destroyers go. I'm pretty happy with this buff overall. We get 175,000 HE DPM, putting us just shy of Kaba HE DPM, by the way. Reminder that this ship can get the same concealment as a Holland. So you can approach caps relatively easily. It's a little bit clumsy, of course, but with all the consumables in its toolkit, Grozovoi is very, very powerful. Of course, that still isn't to the level of Smolensk DPM at 247,000 HE DPM, or even things like Daring, Gearing in that 216,000 HE DPM range. But what sets Grozovoi apart is just going to be that shell velocity. Out to 10 kilometers, let's say, Smolensk has a 7.3 second travel time. Gearing has an 8.3 second travel time. Grozovoi, 5.5. That's what makes this ship so powerful. Here, running some range upgrades on the commander too, letting us farm down these battleships. The HE here has improved HE fire chance, so 8%. I say improved, I'm comparing to things like Gearing with like 5%, but the vast majority of DDs have in that 7-8% range, so Grozovoi's not too special in that regard. When it came out though, it certainly was. We were more used to Gearing and its 5% fire chance. Having 8% here, base, and then this shell velocity is so good. And that 10% reload buff, not a damage, an alpha damage buff, but a reload buff means our fires per minute goes up too. We're getting more consistent fires out of this ship as well. The AP DPM is also pretty significant, as you don't have the 100 less alpha damage on the HE shells compared to Kaba. So we have better than Kaba AP DPM on this ship. 252,000 AP DPM puts us right in range with Gearing and Holland as well, but with way better shell velocity. Again, that's what sets Grozovoi apart. We can play a little bit closer if we want to. We can run that full concealment build, similar concealment to in Holland, but also play at these longer ranges. This is a ship where you're not feeling useless, you're not feeling locked out of the vast majority of games. If your team needs you to play a flank and play for the cap, you can do that. You can contest space with this thing, just because your concealment is so much better than all these gunboat DDs. The other thing you can do is play that long-range gunboat DD role, like a Kleber, like a Kaba, like a Delny. It's really flexible, and I think that's why Grozovoi is so good. I haven't even mentioned that we have a heal yet, but Grozovoi is still an excellent DD at tier 10. So why then did they buff it? I gotta wonder if it's the play rate. They seem to balance based around the play rate, and looking at the past 3 updates or so, looks like Grozovoi, Delny, and Regulo are the least played tier 10 tech tree destroyers. Now that makes sense, I guess, that they would look at Grozovoi now, because at the beginning of the year, they took a look at Regulo, did a balance pass there, and recently they also took a look at the entire Delny line. So I guess Grozovoi gets some love now. This is a very good DD before, and it is even better now. If you haven't played Grozovoi in a while, definitely give it a go, because it's just a comfy DD to play these days, thanks to this shell velocity. I played through Gearing recently, leading up to Laffy release. in the dockyard, as well as making that E video in every one of those American tech tree destroyers. So let me tell you, this shell velocity feels so nice. I know what those American arcs are like, and this is so comfortable in comparison. It's a little clumsier though, okay? I really did notice the rudder shift issues on a ship like this one, as well as the turning radius. So 720 meter turning circle radius, 4.6 second rudder. It's fine, okay? It's fine, but it's certainly not a small DD, bit of a box, and so it can take quite a lot of damage if we try to play a little bit closer, which is why I don't necessarily want to play the full cap contester role like a Gearing or something like a Daring might want to. It can do that, but it's not really where the ship specializes. I think the mid-range out to longer ranges role is really good. If you can find yourself a torp boat or a very stealthy, friendly destroyer to follow in, you can be that gunboat backup. You're the muscle behind that spotting torp boat. That is a really good role to run as well. But this ship also has a problem with its consumables. Building out a commander for this ship is rather difficult, so I'll take some time to go over that at the end if you're interested. But Grozovoi has a lot of tools in its tool belt here. The repair party, you get smokes, you get engine boosts, you get defensive AA. With alright AA, in fact. It's nowhere near Holland level, but we still have a smoke. Unlike a Holland, we can smoke up in difficult situations. But you only get 2 of each consumable. That's the problem. So you really do want to be taking Superintendent. These heals are a little bit unique as well in that I think this was one of the original ships in the tech tree to actually get a heal as a destroyer. That could be wrong. Khaba was certainly before Grozovoi. But a 28-second action time on this heal is very weird for a destroyer. We're often seeing 14 seconds, even down to 10 seconds, but you get 14% of your HP back in 28 seconds. That's a standard heal on cruisers, battleships, but on DDs, we often see those things charge a little bit quicker, do their work a little bit quicker. I also wanted to mention not just firing on cooldown with Grozovoi here. We get the Minotaur spotted, but notice I'm caught in between a Hoffman and his smoke and a Minotaur charging us down. I would rather not take this fight while we're broadside onto that Hoffman. Played that ship recently. Very scary ship to deal with. So we want to be angling as much as we can. We have to be positioning our ship well as a Grozovoi if we want to mitigate a lot of that incoming damage. Because 25k HP is fine, especially with heals, but it disappears incredibly quickly. We are much, much larger than something like a Daring or a Gearing. Even though we have that ability to play at those closer ranges, we have similar detect, we're just a much bigger ship, and because of that we can take a lot more damage. So we'll take advantage of the carrier spotting here and try and deal with this Minotaur. But this AP, you need to be using the AP on this destroyer. It is very, very good. Not only does it have short fuses and good alpha damage, but it's got a lot of pen, man. At like 6 kilometers here, you've got 134 millimeters of pen. You can get through a lot of light cruisers with that. So even through his heal, we will take down the Minotaur. Being a big destroyer in a smoke, what do you got to watch out for? Yes, torpedoes. I should have just continued reversing here, looking back on things. I was worried about Minotaur torps since he was closer. But guess who also has torps, and longer range torps at that? Hoffman does, yes. And we've been in this smoke for quite some time. So we're going to go down here. Hopefully we can trade this guy out. This is another weakness of the Grozovoi. That maneuverability issue, the size issue, getting torped in your smoke. Definitely an issue. And we barely managed to trade him out. So we'll go on to win this game. Just barely. 143,000 damage is fine. Certainly Grozovoi can farm incredible amounts of damage on battleships, but a very different game where we're contested by some very strong gunboat DDs, light cruiser backing him up, and we did have some support, certainly taking advantage of the carrier spotting. That was a huge benefit to us in this one. Get ourselves that E, very nice. It's a good ship, even in gunboat fights. Not something I would necessarily have said before. It was still fine, but you really needed to open up the distance very quickly to take advantage of your shell velocity. You still want to do that. You'll notice most of those fights, I did not take those engagements bow in. I was trying to be kited. I was trying to take those engagements out to distance where I have more of an advantage. But thanks to these DPM buffs, I feel more confident to play at those closer ranges, even into some very scary ships like a small one. Now check out some of these salvos we're going to get with... That was nearly 5k. That's broadside Yamato at 14 kilometers. These are DD guns. And we're reloading, what, every 2.3, 2.4 seconds here? This one, I did not take Superintendent. I was greedy and went full DPM. Legendary upgrade, as well as taking Fearless Brawler and BFT, or whatever it's called now. So as much reload as I can, and it is extreme. It's difficult to play that one because you're then having 2 of each consumable: engine, boost, smoke, and heal, all your survivability tools. It's tough to only have that many. I would highly recommend you run Superintendent, but I had to give it a go. Since it's a DPM buff, we got to run the max DPM build, give it a go. And it was very, very good. The AP absolutely slaps. Yamato hull admittedly is quite weak to that. The upper belt is gigantic and only 32 millimeters, so that's why we're getting so much damage into him. But it's a good example. You should be using AP on some of these destroyers. Minotaur, let's try and go dark here. I think about the AP at these ranges if he goes flat broadside, but no, we can go dark instead. And another Minotaur to deal with. I ran into a lot of those in a few of my other games I was playing. I kept running into Napolis that were charging at me. Grozovoi doesn't do too well into that situation, so might not show you those. You'll have to trust me on that one if you don't believe me. But Minotaur has radar, very scary to deal with that, and we're gonna try and open up the distance. Look at this shell velocity difference between a Minotaur and a Grozovoi. How insane is that? Now I am kiting, so he's forced to lead me, so in actuality it's like he's leading a kilometer or 2 past what this distance actually says, and I'm leading a kilometer less or so. We can think of it like that because he's coming towards me. So it's not exactly this drastic, but it does go to show how good this DPM and shell velocity is that we can take a fight with a light cruiser. Now it's an AP only light cruiser, so we're trying to stay as angled as we possibly can. And Grozovoi has an advantage there. It felt really strange, but comfortable to have these firing angles backwards. You get like 24-degree firing angle for 2 of your turrets, and then 32 degrees for all 3. So we are vulnerable when we're using all 3. But to only use 2 and still have decent angle is pretty nice. Also, notice what this Minotaur did. Instead of continuing the engagement with me in the direction we were going, he turned to his left and cut behind my ship, which forced me to go more broadside to use all of my guns because I have to lead in front of him. I'm always trying to do this whenever I'm the person chasing someone kiting away, and it's a very good tactic to use because it forces that person kiting to be in a less advantageous position. It's still an advantage to be kiting, okay? But forcing someone to open up more broadside is very, very powerful. Now here, I'm not sure. I think he's trying to disengage here. That's how good these Grozovoi guns are. But if he had turned the other way, it might have been a little bit easier for him to get away. And unfortunately, we don't get those AP pens like I was hoping for. I guess I was hitting turrets, maybe? Shatters, bounces. Yeah, unfortunate to not see some of those massive salvos like we got into that Yamato broadside. In that case, the HE might have done a little better damage. And even Bao-On here, caught Bao-On to a Minotaur. He's only got AP. Now, we would get smashed if he had high explosives. So Brisbane, Worcester for sure. But AP, if we keep our angle and especially try to dodge. I'm always trying to play with my rudder. Not going into these full turns, but I'm just trying to have my ship drift a little bit. And that's a great way to throw off someone's aim at these closer ranges. Sometimes you can drift around someone's salvo in a bit of a weird way. And hopefully we can trade this guy out. Over 3 million potential damage at this point, by the way, too. Grozovoi, pretty solid open range, open water, gunboat here. Not enough to carry this one out, but still incredible in a ship like this one to still be able to get that level of potential damage. I can see that in something like a Kaba or Delny for sure. That ship has way less DPM than Groz, but it's got a lot of armor, got a lot of HP, and is faster. You can just stay at range and just constantly open water, and it's almost impossible to take you down. Grozovoi is not quite like that, but it can fill a similar role. And I think that's the best thing I can say about Grozovoi. It's a very, very nice, flexible gunboat destroyer, allowing you to run a full conceal build if you want to and have that near gearing level, Holland level concealment with still retaining decent speed and maneuverability and amazing shell velocity. So you can do these open water, gunboat farming battleship role too. It's comfortable in that way. So if you're interested in that kind of role, if you find something like daring a little bit difficult to play because you got to get so close, the shell arcs aren't great at longer ranges, something like a Grozovoi could be a good idea for you. It's nowhere near as maneuverable, so if you do get in those close range fights compared to a daring, yeah, you're gonna be in some trouble there. But it's a lot safer playstyle if we play further back here, and Grozovoi can do an excellent job farming down this Shukashima with my teammates' support, of course, but Even at 13 kilometers here, 7-8 second travel time, pretty easy to pinpoint the superstructure on something like this Shikishima. So overall, a pretty good buff, but you'll have to let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while I mostly ran the full gunboat build, even sacrificing concealment in a lot of these games, I really just wanted to see what the max DPM would look like, considering the buff was to the DPM. Feels great, and it would certainly allow me to take a little bit less DPM in favor of getting myself concealment. 6.7 is fine, a lot better than things like Kaba, Delny, Kleber, things that have similar shelf light times to you. It's still very good detection. But getting it down to that 6 kilometer range is pretty nice to have. You'd have to give up some DPM though, or some range. You can certainly think about giving up the main battery and A expert here for range, and that gives you still 12.3 kilometers. Very usable, and that would get you to concealment while not sacrificing as much DPM. Or you give up DPM and retain the very comfortable long range ability while also getting the concealment. That's what I would recommend if you're newer to DDs, a little bit unsure of yourself. That gives you the most comfortable playstyle, and sure, it doesn't quite maximize your DPM, but at that point, when you're learning DDs, you should be trying to not maximize DPM, but more so learn the playstyle, learn situations where you can open up, and learn situations where you probably shouldn't. And having a more comfortable build with concealment and range is a good way to go about that. Definitely take Superintendent, because again, having only 2 of these consumables really is difficult. And then I always want to take Survivability Expert, Last Stand, very, very common things here, Preventive Maintenance. And I was using Incoming Fire Alert to just make it easy to play at long range and not have to worry about cross maps, anything like that, or people shooting from longer range. As soon as the notification goes off, just take evasive actions, but you could take some of these other ones as well. The turret traverse is fine, but I did notice in situations where I needed to flip my guns around that it took a little bit longer. I mean, 10.8 seconds isn't too bad for 180-degree turn time, but that is something I did notice. It took me a second. A lot of these newer DDs seem to have even faster turret traverse, or they just have 360 turrets. Not so here on the Grozovoi. If you're wondering, the legendary upgrade here on Grozovoi is very, very good. Sure, you do lose some, actually you lose a lot of torpedo DPM, but the torps are fine. 12 kilometers is very nice, by the way. The damage is okay. They're just not the fastest. They're fine. But I really do think the guns are the standout point here. So that's what I wanted to build for a little bit more. If you don't have it, don't feel too bad. You're only missing out on, what, 6% main battery reload here. So not too bad. And you gain back that torpedo reload. So you're a better hybrid build with this main battery mod 3 here. So don't feel like you need it. But if you're looking for legendary upgrades and you're curious about Grozovoi, it is a very good one if you want that full gunboat roll. Definitely go conceal, prop mod, all this stuff makes a lot of sense. Even with aiming systems mod, it does feel like the guns aren't particularly accurate. It is still destroyer dispersion. I wonder if it's just because the shell velocity is just so absurdly high that we see a little bit worse dispersion. Sometimes it feels like that, where when the shell velocity is so high, the ellipse gets drawn along the water. It's very, very sharp angle, I guess we could say. It's not a lot of plunging fire, so then the ellipse is drawn differently. Maybe. I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is, but I wonder about that sometimes, about these fast shell velocity ships. Decent speed, not the best turning radius or rudder shift time. It's okay, but it's a big DD, right? It's quite large, quite wide, quite long, so you will be taking a lot of damage at those closer ranges. So even though the concealment is good, I wouldn't say it's nearly as good a knife fighter at those close ranges compared to Daring or Gearing or even something like the Holland. But that ability Grozovoi has to open up the distance and still maintain really comfortable arcs is what sets this thing apart and makes it a very good DD still. A worthwhile buff, perhaps? Did it need it? Maybe not. Considering how few people seem to be playing it these days, perhaps that's why the buff is warranted. Again, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.